Most self-respecting mobsters hope all their sons find a legitimate line of work. But one notorious Chicago hitman had no such parental instinct. The man at the center of what the FBI called Operation Family Secrets.
When he was killing, he wanted to make sure you were dead.
Frank Jr. agreed to come back to Chicago and Elmwood Park, where they lived.
Disorderly Product News. I'm here with one Frank Calabrese. Frank Calabrese Jr. That name, Frank Calabrese, whether it be junior and senior, is probably the most well-known, notorious mob name in the past 15 years, outside of Gotti, because Gotti's son obviously ran the Gambino family. But Calabrese is, in my mind, the most notorious name. So, Frank, tell me, who is your father and how do we know him? Or do we know him?
All right, so my dad, Frank Calabrese Sr., he was a made member of the Chicago mob. A lot of times, the mob looks for people on the street. There's certain traits you have. You're either a good thief, you're tough, or you know how to make money. My dad was good at all three. In the 60s, Angelo Hook LaPietra found my dad on the streets and brought him into this life. My dad rose to be an important part of the Chinatown 26th Street crew under his boss, Angelo Hook LaPietra. Over the years, my dad's known as, well, it was a famous case, Operation Family Secrets, but my dad rose in the mob for many years. My uncle Nick wound up following my dad into this life, and then I wound up following my dad into this life for 20 plus years. My uncle and my dad were both made members of the Chicago mob. I am half Irish, so I can never be a made member. In Chicago, it was a little different than the East Coast. You weren't supposed to bring your kids into this life. You were supposed to make a better life for your kids. Where on the East Coast, it was your legacy. It was an honor to bring your kids into this life. So my dad, because he couldn't bring me in, he would call me his secret weapon. So a lot of people on the street didn't know how deeply involved I was. A lot of people just thought that maybe I ran some errands for my dad.
So now, when you say, that's funny you said that. I thought somewhere in the 80s or the 70s, because there wasn't that many 100%. I think it started off as Sicilian, and you're telling me even in the 80s and 90s, you still had to be 100% Italian
To be a made member.
not just your father's last name. So if you're Italian on your father's side, which you were, and your last name's Italian, but because your mother's Irish, you couldn't be a made member.
Correct. In New York, they were changing the rules because John Gotti wanted to make his son, and the wife was Russian.
Okay.
And so they said only the father had to be 100% Italian. See, what happened, you had these, during Prohibition, you had all the gangs. You had the Italian gangs, you had Irish gangs, Jewish gangs, and they were more gangs. After or towards the end of Prohibition, they started to become more of criminal organization, La Cosa Nostra, the Mafia. In Chicago, you heard them called the Outfit. Now, it was always told to me, it was my understanding growing up in this and around this, that Chicago was a little different than the East Coast. Even though they're much smaller in numbers, they had a better business mindset. So they went more underground. They weren't in the open over the years like the East Coast was for many years. So Paul the Waiter-Rica, he was really the brains behind Al Capone. On the street, he was the one really running stuff. Okay, so when Capone went away, he took over. And he had his underboss, Tony Accardo. Now, Tony was also a very smart man. These guys, they had a new mindset. Let's find new ways to earn. What they do is they structure it more like a corporation. Now, in a corporation, in order to be that inner core, you have to be a shareholder, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're a made member, it's the same thing as being a shareholder in a corporation. So you could be Jewish, you could be Irish, you could still be a boss, a guy like Gus Alex, okay? But you had to be a made member to be in an inner circle. And it always stuck like that. And it was very small too. It wasn't like New York where a lot of guys were getting made and there were big numbers. It was a small circle over the years.
That made member status, that oath of omerta, the pricking your finger and the holding the picture of the saint burning your hand, what does that afford you? What do you get once you get that check behind your name? What do you get? What is the difference between...
It was told to me you get more respect in the circle. You were supposed to be part of a family now. This family was supposed to be more important than your family and God.
Yeah. So now you have a status.
You're supposed to be protected. You're supposed to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You had to be 100% Italian. You had to kill on behalf of the organization before you got in. You had to be sponsored by a boss. Now they talk about these secret ceremonies. Now it's come to my understanding over the years from people I've talked to that were in the life, including my dad, my uncle, that there were always a ceremony. It was just different ways depending on where you were or what time it was. But the overall view was burning the holy card in your hand, pricking your fingers. You had to dress up in a suit and be brought to this secret location. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And you see it over and over because a lot of guys that actually did it sit and tell you about it. Yeah. I never did it. I'm half-Irish. I could never do it.
Yeah. So you talked, and I think this is a very important point. Chicago, I mean, they were known as the brains. I mean, they started Las Vegas, right?
Now, they had a part of Las Vegas, yes, but they got into labor unions. They got into legitimate companies. They were trying to find money, and they were trying to curb this violence.
Yes.
They were so violent in the 20s and during Prohibition that they says, man, we can't keep doing this. We got a new enemy now, the FBI. You see them they bring in Elliot Ness and everybody. People get scared. It's just like terrorism. It's like anything. People get scared. You don't want people to get scared. You want them to think. It's all about perception and deception. I want them to think I'm your friend. And I'm going to protect you.
It's funny you say that because that's one thing about Chicago. There was never these big... Now, the Operation Family Secrets are the trial, I think, 18 murders. 40 murders up. There was never these big, huge wars in Chicago like in Philly when Nicky Scarfo's killing everybody on the street for looking at him the wrong way. Or the Colombo families going at it with Joey. There was never that in Chicago with these just sensationalized. Of course, there were big hits, right?
And that's part of the business every once in a while. That needs to happen.
Yeah. If you had to say one guy that your dad came to the house, he could not stand. And fucking Joey the Clown, motherfucker. Who was his arch enemy?
He never He never came out and said he couldn't stand anybody. There were some guys he didn't get along with, and there were some guys that didn't get along with him either.
Yeah. There's always that. There's always those people that.
And some guys, when they started to see my dad, these two personalities he had, or these three personalities, my dad wasn't always as fair as he should have been. So some guys would try to get away from my dad. And when somebody tried to get away from my dad, that's when my dad didn't like that person. So some guys might have went to another crew or, passed on doing something with my dad. And that's when he started to not like certain people.
So there was nobody in the mob that was in a different crew that was just as powerful, just as well liked, just as that was just his opposite that he just couldn't stand.
No, there were people he didn't like their ways. He would say stuff, but it wasn't anybody he couldn't stand. He just kind of stood away from him because, see, my dad tried not to ruffle any feathers.
Yeah.
My dad used to always say two things. He says, number one, he goes, I never talked about moving up in the mob. He goes, because these guys are paranoid. And the guy above you might think you're trying to take his seat. I always made it, I was happy. He said, and number two, I always turned money in.
Yeah. So your dad was one of those rare breeds who was a money earner and a hitter.
But he learned from a lot of these guys.
At the height of your dad's earning power, how much money did he have?
I would say around 10 million plus.
In cash?
Yeah.
Just stashed in...
Walls, in car panels, anywhere he could stash cash.
Okay, he was naturally street smart, but he did learn from a lot of good people, and he taught me a lot of that. I use it in a positive way today. It helps me get ahead of life.
Yeah.
It's about this. You know what Chicago said? You can't keep using this and this. Okay, over time you got to use this.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need this to make a point or get something done, but fear of the unknown, first of all, is always the greatest fear. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't have a lot of violence. People get scared with violence. The one thing the government hates is blowing things up. You blow something up, you're in big trouble. Yeah. Okay. There was some mob cases in the early 2000s where they blew up a guy's vending company. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why you can't do that no more.
Yeah, yeah.
You blow up something, you're done.
There was a lot of
scared.
explosions. It's unheard of, but there was a lot around it. Did you see in the Netflix movie that's out now, The Irishman?
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch it?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Do you have an idea of who killed Hoffa? Do you think?
Mm-hmm. I don't
Did
have
you
any
ever hear
idea.
anything?
Nope. Actually, it's funny because I just know this is a total point of the thing that really stuck out in the movie to me was when Jimmy Hoffa, Pacino, looked at Robert De Niro, at Frank the Irishman, and he said, "No way, no way." What he's saying is they would never kill me. If they killed me, the mob, there would be so much heat from the government.
Come on, Frank. If they can whack a president, they can whack a president of a union.
That's why they didn't want him to be found. I don't know. I don't have any idea. The only thing, dad never even talked about Jimmy Hoffa. All he said was that Jimmy Hoffa, they didn't want him to be found. And when they don't want somebody to be found, he's not going to. Ironically, we had close Detroit ties to the mob. My dad did. He had some friends, some close friends that were in the mob there. With the Freedom of Information Act a handful of years ago, Chuck Gowdy came out and showed that that my dad was a major person of.
And tonight, the insertion of Hoffa's name into the FBI file of Chicago outfit boss Frank Calabrese Sr. is just that, a riddle. One reference to Hoffa concerns a meeting that may have taken place in Missouri the week that Hoffa vanished, noted in Calabrese's federal file as part of the Hoffex investigation.
And he made a big thing about it. Well, let me tell you something. My dad never talked about it, never nothing.
Yeah.
I don't feel that he did, but I'm curious. I'd love to know if he knew about anything.
Yeah.
You know what? The only guy that knows is the guy that did it. And if there was guys with him, that's it. Just the one thing that everybody can agree on is they did not want that body to be found. And that was for the reason, because it would have been too much pressure from the government. See, when you make them disappear, just like they wanted SPILOTRO to do, when these guys have problems, sometimes they think that they take off and they just go on the lam, on the run, they're laying low. That's what they wanted people to think. When we were close to the end of our statute of limitations on our first case, my dad went to see some people to see if we can get a favor done in Washington, D.C. to get, what's my dad's options as far as not getting arrested. The word that came back is it's close to the end of the statute of limitations, just take off for a while and hide. So he comes back, and we got this plan. We're going to shoot up his car to make it look like somebody tried to kill him. He's going to disappear, like they buried him. He's going to go down in Florida. So see, it's a strong plan with guys in life. You want to make it look like something.
Joe Bonanno did it. Joe Bonanno got kidnapped right before he was supposed to. His cousin was the boss of the Buffalo family.
Bonanno was returning home from dinner when two gunmen grabbed him on Park Avenue in New York City and kidnapped him. The headlines of the day wrote Joe Bonanno off as dead. 19 months later, he walked into the Brooklyn Federal Court building.
His cousin was the boss of the Buffalo family, and supposedly got kidnapped right before he was gone for a year or two. And he was so strong, and when you talk about determination and just. His son was sitting there. His dad's been gone. Like, his dad didn't tell him anything, and his son ended up taking him with the family. He remembered his dad said, if anything ever happens, the first Thursday of the month, go to this payphone. He remembers this 2 months later. Goes to that payphone. He sits at that payphone every Thursday for 3 months. After 15, 16 Thursdays, all of a sudden the phone rings. Picks it up, it's his dad. So they had these plans.
We did the same thing with payphones. So we used to have rolls of dimes in our pockets. We had 10, 20 cents, the payphone was. And we had a list. So we'd go out and run down the phone numbers of payphones around there, and we'd number them. So if my dad was down in Florida, like when he was going on the lam, he did go for a while. When you're talking on the one payphone, okay, I'll talk to you next week at number 3.
Yes, yeah.
So all we had to do was make sure that we didn't get, we weren't followed to the payphone. But that's how we communicated, through payphones. And we had the numbers written down already, so we had a little list of numbers. But we wrote the numbers backwards, or we started with the third.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
yes,
so this way you can never figure out the number, so somebody confiscated the list.
Yeah,
we called the house, what are you doing? I don't know. There's a movie on at 9 o'clock. I'm dying to watch it. It's on Channel 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, yeah. It's about birds and stuff. You know, I like birds, Dad. Yeah. So that meant at 9 o'clock tonight, go to payphone number 2. I'm at home. I'm not walking out my front door into car at 8:30.
Yeah.
I make it out a few blocks, maybe even jog there sometimes because I was younger then, right? And I go to that phone and I wait. I come back home. They think I'm sitting at home all night watching TV if they're watching my house.
So the house in Elmwood Park, you called it the compound.
Yeah, it was a 3-flat. It was all family in there.
That's where
with
you
a
grew
huge
up at.
addition. Yeah.
So your childhood home is 2 blocks down, same street from my childhood home.
I spent a lot of time in alleys.
Yeah.
Because you can move around the city through alleys and gangways, and it's very hard. You know, when I walk down the street, I always make sure I walk down the street, one-way street coming towards me. It was harder for them to follow in cars.
I think that your story is so much more. I really believe your dad really loved you, and it's just.
Oh, my dad loved me. This
He
life
did-
changed.
does.
This,
He adored you.
Changed my dad. And you know,
Yeah.
we loved each other, but he hated my ways and I hated his.
Yes,
And
and-
I didn't want in this life, Joe. I worked businesses. I had the biggest paper round in 6th grade. I started in Armand's at 14. I always worked, and I liked working. I had ideas, opened up businesses at a young age. I liked working. I don't like violence.
So
I'm good at it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, and I know you are a good guy. You are very, very. You are not a violent person. And I just by your mannerism and how you talk, and you just don't come across that you have that. I mean, sure, everybody has a snapping point, but you don't have like it's
Well, mine's more controlled,
Yeah.
and you know, and I am my father in a lot of ways, but I can control it a lot more than my father.
Okay, so this is it. So you go get sent to prison for the guy in River Grove was wearing a wire.
Matt Russo. Yeah.
Matt Russo was wearing a wire. It was called M&M, what's it?
Yes, I'm an artist. So my dad, Matt, was from the neighborhood. We knew Matt. We hung around with all the same people. He was older than me, but my dad loved cars. So he'd go hang by Matt once in a while. Was introduced by different people, and when Matt got into a lot of bad things, drugs. I mean, a lot of stuff. And so my dad would borrow him money, and my dad liked going there because he thought Matt was a legit guy. One time Matt said, "Hey, you know, I could get this or I can get that. You know, if you need a body part." My dad said, "What?" He says, "If you're doing anything illegal here, just tell me. I'm not mad at you, but I'll never come in this store
Yeah.
again."
Oh yeah. Yes.
So but what happened was Matt got caught up in something. Matt started stealing cars. So if you went to Matt's shop, he'd make a copy of your key, and about 3 weeks later, he had this young kid steal the car. Matt makes a connection through an idiot of an undercover FBI agent that's buying each of these cars for $3,000.
Yeah.
Matt don't know what's right or wrong.
Yeah.
When the FBI goes to arrest Matt, they think that he's working for my dad. Matt breaks down and says, "Look, he doesn't know. He's going to kill me if he finds out." So they said, "Well, if you wear a wire against him." So I was detailing cars. And
You're what age is that?
oh, heck, I'm 27, 28. I was just married. My wife was, it's closer to 30. Okay, and I liked cars too. We're detailing cars, me and another kid in the neighborhood, a couple kids in the neighborhood. I opened up this detail shop in Matt's building next door. I start getting accounts with dealerships. Matt's going to do the oil changes, change things like windshield wipers, stuff like that, and then I'm going to detail the cars.
You've always had a business mind. That's what I say.
Always worked the business to this day, right up to
Yeah.
this minute. We're going to do it. Matt's going to rent me that place. It's going to work out fine. Well, I find out the guy from Melrose Park that had this place, Matt said the guy was leaving, that he didn't want it anymore. Well, I find out from the guy, because he's scared, that Matt tells the guy that the Calabreses are muscling you out. They want in. And the guy said, "Well, I'm not leaving. I don't care. I have connections too in Melrose Park. Let me talk to him." "No, you can't talk to him. I can't tell you." Matt said, "Look, I don't want no problems. Why don't you do this? I'll give you $10,000. He goes, "And just please move out." So the guy said, "Okay." I find all this out. I go tell my dad. Now my dad, there's this big thing. I'm like, "Dad, I could do this anywhere. Why do we got to do it here?" So we start doing it. Now my dad loves to muscle in on other people's stuff. He don't care if you're a family member. So he says, every car that goes through, I get $10 on every car. I'm charging $80, $75. You get 10. And then Matt is not doing work and stuff to these cars that he's supposed to, and he's padding the bills. I'm not padding the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Time goes by. Matt was cooperating the whole time.
And you had no idea.
No, but there were a lot of things that were fishy. But you know, your guard is not up so much when you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah. You're just living your regular life.
Because you're just, well, I mean, I'm caught up in powder cocaine right now. I'm selling and stuff, but I didn't do it out of there, so I wasn't concerned about that. And really, yeah, this thing could have turned into something. It was another way for me to try to get away from this life. I'm here all the time detailing cars.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I start catching problems from the dealerships. The work's not being done. Then Matt goes to the dealership and tells the guys to start sending the check in the mail. I'm there every day picking up cars. Why would you send it in the mail?
Are you talking about dealerships on North Avenue?
No, Solos Edelson was one of them, one of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to notice all this stuff ain't right. Now Matt owed my dad money, and he didn't have the money. So my dad wants me to collect it from him. Now it's a Saturday night, I'm calling Matt, he won't answer, finally he doesn't have it. I go, you know what, Matt? I says, I'm gonna put it in for you this time, but this is enough. I don't even want to be in part of this. You know, my dad's putting me in the middle. My dad, one morning, he comes, he starts, where's Matt? I said, you know what, Dad, I'm tired of this. I put the money in last time. I don't want to be involved in this. Keep me out of this fucking shit. The guy is a loser. He ain't got the money. You deal with him. I got the detail shop. My dad jumps in the car, goes, meets Matt there. Matt's got the wire on while we're talking. What the fuck you putting my son in the middle of this for this? And then he looks at me and he goes, if you ain't got the money, I'll back off. He goes, just give me an eye. He goes, and you, he says to me, he goes, I ought to break your fucking arm for being too nice to everybody. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm the one, and this came out in court. I said, look, I'm the one getting tried here.
Yeah, from both sides.
But this is how crazy it was getting. And then one day I called Matt and I says, Matt was starting to get scared. We were bringing some cars back one day, and my dad was in the lead car, and a friend of mine was in the car with Matt. And we stopped. You know when you're going north on Thatcher and you're coming over the river towards where Kittyland used to be?
Yeah.
So my dad pulls over to the side. It's raining out. Right over the bridge to the river.
Yeah.
Pulls out here. Well, Matt starts getting off. So why are we stopping here? He got scared. He thought that.
It's all woods right there.
So it wasn't. My dad just wanted to pull over to give him directions they went.
Yeah.
The next day I call Matt and I'm screaming at him because I left the dealer shop and went to work at Solos Edelson. And, I was getting a lot of work and stuff. I was a salesman. I was going to go into financing. And my boss tells me the cars are coming back. The work's not done. So I get on the phone. I'm yelling at him. I go, you meet me tomorrow, you motherfucker, at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Well, I go there. The place is deserted. Go by Matt's house. They got scared. They thought we were on to him. So they pulled him out.
But that's the end of the case that you end up going
to prison. There was a weak case. Me and my brother could have beat it, but if me and my brother would have fought it, they wouldn't have gave my dad his deal of 12 years. He would have went to court, probably got 30.
Is that the one where your dad says, if you take the heat for me?
Yeah.
So that's the one that ends up with you taking. Now, okay.
Well, actually, and my brother Kurt. So my brother Kurt shouldn't have even been in it. And I told my brother Kurt, I said, don't plead guilty, Kurt. Fight it. You're going to win. Even his lawyer was telling me, he had a big name lawyer. My dad says, no, you're gaining weight. You're getting soft. Be a man. Do the time. If you don't do your time, I don't get my deal. They're going to give you a house arrest or maybe that 5-month boot camp. What's the big deal? My brother didn't listen, and he did it for my dad. Do you know what he did? He wound up in a camp in Oxford, Wisconsin. Prison camp, right? Yeah. All politicians. Kurt's fine with it. 24-month sentence. 8 months into the sentence, the warden says, I hate Italians and I hate mobsters. Ships my brother to MCC. My brother Kurt got out on an I-bond. We had all put up our houses. Kurt did all his time at MCC, maximum security. You know that?
What, MCC?
Metropolitan Correctional Center, downtown.
Downtown?
Yeah.
It was just a holding facility.
No, it's holding and you can do time there too.
Okay, so
and all my dad did was abuse my brother the whole time. So Kurt pled guilty for me and was in maximum security while we were sitting in a medium.
So I want to get this point out. So when you get your deal, do you get any time off?
No.
Do you get what considerations do you get?
So I got a hold of the FBI. I'm in prison. My dad promises me he's gonna take me out of this. I'm doing great prison time. He sees it. He finds out me and my wife are divorced. He thought this was the time to bring me back into this. When I realized this, I was so upset. So we wind up in the same prison together. For 8 months, I'm trying to work out on my dad. The thing was, I always feared my dad all my life.
Of course.
When I got into prison, I lost that fear of him. So now my guard's up. If he tries to bring me back in his life, he promised he wouldn't. We're going to work on something, we're going to see if we're going to. While we're in there, I realized finally that he's manipulating me, tried to bring me back in. We start bumping heads, and when we're on the yard sometimes, walking past each other, hitting shoulders. He knows I don't fear him anymore.
Yeah. He sees you getting yes.
So it came to the point where I realized 100%, and I talk about this a lot on the tour, that my dad is manipulating me. He wants me back in. He's never going to let me go. I was so fucking pissed. Okay, I can swear, right?
Yeah.
I was so fucking pissed that I turned around and walked away from him. I said, this man's never gonna let me out. I'm gonna wait till he gets home after me from prison and I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah.
This is the only way this is gonna end.
Because this is what I want to know. If he's just gonna get you in stuff. You're gonna be, if he comes home and you're his right hand man, he's gonna make you. So even if you don't want to kill anybody, you'll end up being in murder cases. This is how you see it.
But it's
anybody
not
that knows
that.
your dad,
My
you
dad
can't tell your dad what to do.
No,
it's just
and
not how
he
it
tried
works.
to kill me once before because I didn't want to do what he had to say to do. And
Do you think that would ever happen? Do you think
Yes.
he would have actually pulled the trigger on you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. No doubt in my mind.
Him himself.
Yes. Yeah. He was going to kill my uncle. He tried to get me to lure my uncle to him and where Ronnie Jarrett was.
I can see that.
Okay.
I don't. I want
Anybody that could keep him locked up forever. He was going to kill his new wife's father, his father-in-law.
Yeah.
He wanted me to do it with him. We were planning it. And I felt in my heart, because me and him were falling out at that time, that if I would have said no, he would have killed me. And if we would have did it, he was going to set it up and say, I did it.
So that's very important to know that you didn't get any consideration as far as getting your time off of. It was just
here's what I did.
fork in the road.
Here's what I did. Away. Now, sometimes in life you got to make a decision, right? And all your choices stink. I'm thinking I'll wait till I get home to kill him, but is that direct? There's got to be another choice. There's got to be another choice. Days go by. The only thing I can come up with was be a snitch, be a rat, do the worst thing you could do in my neighborhood. But that's the guys that can't do their time. I'm doing great time. Guys in the life see it from all over the country, and they're telling my dad. I don't want to be obligated to the FBI. I don't want to be obligated to my father. I don't want to be obligated to anybody. So that's when I wrote this letter to the FBI. And in the letter, basically, I said, nobody can know. I didn't write it. I typed it with winter gloves.
And you didn't touch it, but how does that go through the prison system and go to the FBI? Because you obviously aren't going to the mailbox and mailing it in. You have to put it in there.
Here's the thing. They only look at ingoing mail. And I threw it in with a bunch of mail into the mailbox that goes out. There's a lot of prisoners in it. They don't check all the mail going out. First of all, I had a great job working in the commissary. I was on the warden's board to appropriate funds, which I was helping my dad and guys in the life with, the perks I had. Yeah. So they had no reason to monitor anything I was sending out. So I typed it for no handwriting. I used winter gloves for no fingerprints, and I didn't put nothing personal there. So even if they do look at it, somebody earlier on, it looked like was trying to set us up. I would say, Dad, it's the government. They're trying to make us fight so they can get something. So I planned this all out ahead. This was 8 months. This didn't happen overnight.
No, of course.
When they came to see me, the first thing they thought, I was told later on, was that I can't do my time. They wanted to get me in front of a grand jury. When they realized I was doing my time, they brought the prosecutor out, Mitch Myers. He said, this guy's doing good time. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
What do you want from us? I says, I don't want to be obligated to you guys. No disrespect. I'll do all my time, pay all my fines, no immunity.
No, that's important. That's important. You didn't ask for anything to
I have no problem doing my time. First of all, I used everything I did wrong in life. That's why I'm here. I'm not here because I was for my father, although technically I was, but I'm looking at starting over,
And you took the stand. Did you take the stand on who? Anybody? How many times
I took the stand on my father.
Okay. So you don't want.
I testified
you feel like
father.
your father's getting out, and you can see it from your father. Your father's a strong mafioso. He needs a million things done. Who not better to do it than his son? And I don't think he was doing it. I think it was a form of abuse because he was putting you in a life you never asked to be in, right? So that's why listen. I don't know that they call you. You didn't ask to be in the life you never signed up for.
Oh, you could call me. You could call me. And people call me rat. You know what? You got to own it. Okay. Yeah, I testified. Okay. But you know what? Rats run and hide. I don't run and hide. I'm here right now. I'm in Chicago. I know a lot of people that are very capable of hurting me very bad. Yeah. And there's reasons why they're not. Maybe the reasons are because maybe they dealt with my dad before. Some people say I dealt with my dad. I dealt with you. There was a difference. Some people say I made things better for them. I don't. Whatever anybody's doing, that's fine. You want to call me that? You can. But you know what? It was a war. I had to make a decision. And the decision I made is what I have to live with.
Yeah.
And that's what I live with.
Yeah.
Okay, in war, you got to do it. My dad was my enemy. He tried to kill me one time. He was pulling me back in this life. Okay, I told you, he wanted me back in when I got out. When I started using the wire, people say, well, how'd you get your dad to talk? He was just bragging. No, I made him believe I wanted back in because of the good time he was seeing I was doing and how close we were getting. I told him I want back in, but I got some issues with you and I'll work up the issues. I'm not coming back in. He was so excited. You know what he told me? You're going to take over the crew at Ronnie Jarrett until I get home. But this time you're going to earn it. He gives me the name of a guy from our neighborhood that he wants me to kill right away as soon as I get out to earn it because he believes the guy jumped ship. Okay? So my dad had no intentions of letting me go. And I get this letter smuggled out of prison for my dad's new wife. after Ronnie was killed, telling me to take over the crew. He don't even know who killed Ronnie yet if it's a mob hit. And he's saying keep 1,000 for every 10,000 you collect. And the second part of the letter is my dad trying to manipulate me again. Be a good son and do this for your dad. He didn't care about me. All he cared about was his money. He didn't care about my kids.
Where did you get that letter at? Where were you at when you got that letter?
I was at home.
Okay, and his wife smuggled it out, and so that's the thing about it. So imagine you don't want to be in the life anymore. You don't want to go to jail. You're sick of going to prison. You're 40 or 30 in prison, and you just want to leave. Now think about you can't leave, because even if you want to leave, your father, anybody that's had a relationship like that, it's a one-way street.
You want to listen to this disrespect. He'd rather have you in the ground and pay his respects to your body.
Yeah, there's no telling him what to do. You can't sit down and be like, Dad, we're not doing it. No. There's a one-way street. Yeah, but I'm saying I understand to that where
I wanted my dad to get out of this.
Everybody knows there's some things you just can't tell your parents. They won't be your kid. You're always a kid. No matter how old you get, it's a one-way street. It's always been this way. They're never going to listen to you. So you saw it as a way you don't want to be in this. You don't want to be going back to jail into your 30s, 40s, and 50s. And even if you go straight, you can't go straight because he's either going to kill you or make you do things that are going to force you to be in a criminal lifestyle.
Yeah, this is a drug and a disease, the street. Okay?
Yeah, that's what they say.
In your blood, it never comes out. I have to process to this day. Sometimes I see stuff, and I have to step back and process and do the right thing. Okay, my dad had a chance to step back and retire because he was sick for a while. I would go down to the club and meet everybody on the street. Now, I didn't want to lie to anybody. So a guy would say, "How's your dad doing?" I go, "Well, he's doing better." Yeah. Like that. Well, Red, what does that look like? Meaning he's dying, right? Yeah. I go, "Dad, everybody thinks you're dying. Back off. Me and Kurt, my brother, we have these businesses. We have stuff going on. You have money. Let's slowly get away from this."
There's no need for it anymore.
He wanted to at first, but he couldn't.
He couldn't because you're addicted.
Finally, he goes, "I'm going back down there. I'm going to the club. I am going to get everybody back in line." Okay.
Yeah.
That disease took over him. Even when we got in prison, we had a chance, me and him. The FBI didn't put us there. They didn't know we were having any problems. Nobody knew except close family members close to me. I felt that somebody bigger than us put us there. We had one more chance to work on our differences and get on with our life.